I will be covering the Ancestry Feats for the Kobold Ancestry from level 1 to level 13. Kobolds have some interesting feats, some of which apply to the Draconic Exemplar ability, which I covered in my other Kobold video that came out earlier today. You can check out that video in the card. So let's get started with first level feats. The Cringe feat gives you a reaction with the trigger. A creature you are aware of critically succeeds on a strike against you and would deal damage to you. If you are having trouble with the terminology of this video, check out this video in the card. The attacking creature takes a penalty to the damage of the strike equal to your level +2. The GM will apply this penalty after doubling the damage from the critical hit. The foe is then immune to this feat for 24 hours. This feat can be really good at any level. Yes, it's only once per day for each foe, but it can still be the difference between going unconscious and staying in the fight. Next is Dragon's Presence. This feat basically means if you get hit by a fear effect, you either crit succeed or you crit fail on the saving throw, no matter what you roll. This feat is hilarious to me, because you either stand there not afraid at all, or you're running the other way. There is no in-between with this feat. This feat fits kobolds so well it's actually kind of scary. In addition, when you attempt to demoralize a foe of your level or lower, you gain a +1 bonus to the intimidation check. Third is Cobalt Breath. This is a feat that is tied to the Draconic Exemplar ability, which I covered in my other Kobold video. If you want to check that out, the video is up on the card. This feat requires 2 actions to use. You create either a 30-foot line or a 15-foot cone of the energy type that you chose for your Draconic Exemplar ability. This deals 1d4 damage of that energy type. At 3rd level and every 2 levels afterwards, the damage increases by 1d4. The shape of this breath weapon is tied to the dragon type you chose for Draconic Exemplar. All hit by this breath weapon must make a basic save against your class or spell DC, whichever is higher. This is almost always a reflex save, but if you choose Green Dragon, it is a fortitude save. You then cannot use this feat for 1d4 rounds. This feat just gives you a breath weapon without even having to be a Draconic Bloodline sorcerer. Plus, there is another better version of this at higher levels that requires you to have this feat. So consider this feat at 1st level. Cobalt Lore is a pretty standard feat. You become trained in the stealth and thievery skills. You also become trained in Cobalt Lore. There is a feat like this for just about every ancestry. They are all pretty good, because they just give you 3 extra skills. The Scamper feat requires 1 action to use, and you must be adjacent to at least 1 enemy to use this feat. You stride up to your speed plus 5 feet, and you gain a +2 bonus to your AC against reactions triggered by this movement. You must end your movement in a space that is not adjacent to any enemies. This feat is really good if you are more of a ranged character like a spellcaster who doesn't want to be up front. Simply use this feat to get away from an enemy that is right next to you so you can cast your spells freely. Although, unless you need that extra 5 feet or you want the +2 to AC against reactions, you could just spend an action to move, so it's situational. The last 1st level feat for kobolds is the Snare Setter feat. There is a typo in this feat. It should not have the prerequisite of trained in crafting, because the feat itself gives you trained proficiency in crafting. You also gain access to all uncommon kobold snares and the snare crafting skill feat, but you can choose from uncommon kobold snares in addition to common snares when choosing formulas for that feat. This feat screams Kobold Ranger. Kobolds are very well known for setting snares, so it makes sense that this feat is available to them. If you want to be a ranger that sets up snares, take this feat. Otherwise, take something else. Now let's talk about 5th level feats for the Kobold, starting with Ally Shelter. This feat gives you a once per day reaction. With the trigger, you attempt a saving throw while adjacent to one of your allies, but you haven't rolled yet. When you use this reaction, you may use an adjacent ally's modifier instead of your own on the triggering saving throw. This feat is amazing. Let's say you have this feat and you're next to the fighter. As a kobold, you might have a really low fortitude saving throw, but if you're in this situation and you get hit by a poison or disease, you could use the fighter's save modifier instead of your own on that save. Yes, it's only once per day, but it could still mean the difference between being able to fight well or not, and it works on any saving throw. So if you're bad at reflex or will saves, you could use this feat for saving throws if you're next to the rogue or the cleric, or really anyone that has a better save than you. Next we have the Grovel feat. You must be trained in the deception skill to take this feat. For one action, you can attempt a feint against a creature. However, unlike a normal feint, you can use this feat on a creature that is up to 30 feet away instead of within melee reach, and you roll against their will DC and not their perception DC. This is just a safer version of the feint action, but only if you are not in melee range of the enemy. If your feint action backfires on a critical failure, then you simply don't move up to the enemy you attempted to feint. Of course, if you succeed or crit succeed, then you have to move up on the enemy you feinted, and this feat does require an action, but so does the feint action. This makes this feat really good for scoundrel rogues that use the feint action a lot. Lastly, for 5th level feats, we have the Snare Genius feat. This feat requires you to be an expert in the crafting skill and have the snare crafting skill feat. Each day, during your daily preparations, you can prepare 3 snares from your formula book that you got for taking the snare crafting feat for quick usage. If a snare normally takes 1 minute to craft, then it only takes 3 interact actions to craft if you have this feat. Also, snares prepared in this way don't cost you any resources to craft. If you are a master in crafting, you can prepare 4 snares in this way, and if you're legendary, you can prepare 5. When you craft and deploy any snare that deals damage, any creature that critically fails its saving throw against that snare's initial effect and takes damage becomes flat-footed until the end of its next turn. This feat is really good if you use snares a lot. If you're good at crafting and you want to use snares to make enemies flat-footed, take this feat. Otherwise, take something else. 9th level kobolds have access to some very good ancestry feats, and you should definitely consider all of them when you get to that level. Let's start with Between the Scales. If you hit a flat-footed creature with a weapon that has the Finesse and Agile traits, the weapon also gains the Backstabber trait, which means that it deals 1 precision damage in addition to its normal damage. This is a great feat for kobold rogues. That 1 extra damage could be the difference between taking down an enemy or allowing it to stay up and able to fight. Plus, as the weapon is a +3 weapon, the damage bonus goes up to +2. Next is the Dracomancer feat. When you take this feat, choose 1 1st level spell and 1 2nd level spell of the type of dragon spellcaster that you chose for your Draconic Exemplar ability. For example, if you chose Black Dragon for Draconic Exemplar, then you would choose these spells from the Black Dragon spellcaster spells. You can find these spells in the sidebars on page 104 to 106 of the Bestiary. There are also some examples on screen. You gain these spells as innate arcane spells that you can cast once per day. These work like any other innate spells. This feat is really good. There aren't really a whole lot of attack spells in these spells, so if you're looking for that, sorry, they're mostly support spells. But if you are tactical, these spells can really help out a party. Lastly, for 9th level Ancestry Feats for the Kobold, we have the Dragon's Breath Ancestry Feats. This is the feat I was talking about earlier that requires the Cobalt Breath Ancestry Feat to take. Whenever you use Cobalt Breath, you can change the damage dice to D8s and double the area of the breath weapon. But if you do, you cannot use Cobalt Breath again for 1 hour. Just a better version of Cobalt Breath. Simple as that. It sucks that you have to wait an hour to use this feat again, but they had to balance it somehow. Finally, for Ancestry Feats for the Kobold, we have the Elite Dracomancer 13th level Ancestry Feat. This feat requires the Dracomancer Ancestry Feat that I covered earlier in this video. This feat is identical to the Dracomancer feat, except that instead of choosing a 1st and 2nd level spell from the list, you choose a 3rd and 4th level spell from the list in the bestiary for your Draconic Exemplar ability. This is where the attack spells come in. If you want extra spells, even if you're not a spellcaster, this is the feat for you. Otherwise, take something else. And that's going to wrap up this video. If this video helped you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder 2nd Edition tutorial content. Be sure to check out the other Kobold video and my Catfolk videos that all came out today. Next week, I will be continuing this series with the Orc Ancestry, and I will be giving tips for all you novice GMs out there as to how to run your games. So until next time, let's play some Pathfinder. 1, 2, 3.